a podcast shedding light on how healing is an inside job. Keys to your inner power and total transformation. Discussing wholeness, wellness, and the effects of the mind on the physical and energetic parts of our being. Sacred knowledge that inspires us to look within, to find our own unique path. Release and rewire to become what you truly are, strong, whole, and empowered.
Welcome to the Empowered Mind, Empowered Health podcast for the Conscious Game Changers with Dr. Jayne. Please like, share, and subscribe. Just be the wave. Today, we have Franco DeNicola. For the past 3 decades, Franco has shared his unique insights on the complexities of the human experience to individuals and audiences around the world. Franco knew from a very young age his sole purpose is to bring clarity and a deeper understanding of the soul operating system and our true purpose. Welcome, Franco.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on, and thank you for that introduction. It's this is our second time, and I really I enjoyed our last conversation that we had, and I really look forward to what we're going to uncover and explore today.
Yes, and if people really love what they're hearing here, you can go back and find that other interview. It's wonderful. Franco, today let's look into seeing beyond our current perceptions and why that's so important. I love what you're talking about right now. Take that away.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Well, it's really important for us to look beyond our perception, because when we understand how perception even comes about, because when we are born and we're, a baby and so forth, we have really no perception of things. We have an intimate connection with our body, and we may not understand the body and its functionality, because that's the thing that we go through the learning process, but we don't have a perceived idea what life is, how it needs to be, what is and what isn't. There's no idea, even polarity or anything of that nature. However, as we are the child or the baby at that time, we're exposed to our parents at first, and it doesn't matter if it's a couple, two parents or one parent, or you don't have any parents. Sometimes you have a parent, but you end up being shipped off to somewhere else, or you get into handed, it doesn't matter. So we're exposed to people. We're exposed to, could be our parents, could be anybody. And automatically we're observing. We're observing and trying to understand, their mannerism, how they respond and so forth. That's one part. It starts off very small and minuscule in comparison to a deeper understanding. But the parents go into this mode using their perception to kind of train, condition, teach, share their viewpoint, their perception. And that starts to, what's wrong, what's good, what's right, this or that, or you can do this, you can't do that, this is what has to be, or whatever it is. So the child starts to adopt perceptions of, oh, this could be done, that can't be done, this is right, this is wrong. May not be so open to accept it, because there's, as a child, your main driving force is to explore, to learn, to play. You don't want rules. You don't want limits. You don't want to be told what to do. You kind of want to go with the whim. And the whim is really your true self. It's like, I want to taste, I want to explore, I want to touch, I want to yell, I want to do whatever, and I want to learn, and I want to observe, right? However, the parents or whoever the guidance or guardians are in there are going to, continue to instill them with perceptions. Now, those perceptions will extend to what the lineage will carry, what the family's idea of perception it is, what their extended family perception may be, what the adopted ideas that can extend to religion, could extend to culture, could extend to, gender-based and so forth, right? So the child is accepting all these perceptions of what it is to be in a human body, male or female or whatever, and so forth. And that doesn't stop there. Now they're exposed to other people that are telling them, and they're also explaining certain things. So they're further adopting those perceptions. And then the perceptions extend to what the media shares, like cartoons, movies, shows, whatever it is. Then there's educational perceptions that is taken on. Then the playing with other people, moving along and so forth. So we establish a perception. Now the perception, we have to understand, is based on not our true operating system. It's not based on our natural state at all. Those perceptions adopted are just ideas that were extended through other chains of other people handing down. And you have to understand, perceptions are based on consciousness too. If you're in an unconscious state and you go into that deeper unconscious state, then it's easier to be programmed and to accept certain ideas and perceptions. Because for you, like this happens to you too, with all of us really, unless we are choosing to say, I am who I am, and I choose to be navigated from that inner knowing, the moment you step out of that, you are more open and susceptible to just accept what everybody on the mainstream is projecting for you. These perception means even how to act, respond, what to dress, what is acceptable by others, and accept the ideas that, you can't be yourself, you have to be like everybody else or something of that nature, right? You could see all of that playing out. And that's how the perceptions goes. Now, as long as we're reflecting those perceptions, it limits us, like we're putting ourselves in a conditioned prison sort of thing, if you want to call it that, a box. Let's call it a box, and many layers of boxes. As long as we're giving power to those perceptions, then to see outside of that, to see beyond that, is very difficult. Now, look at how many people live life under perception. Pretty well everyone. Now, what happens is they're mimicking everybody else. They're actually using other resources of input that's coming from all types of sources, from others, from the media, from religions, from whatever else, to update their perceptions. It doesn't start to shift until you get to the point where you're so pushed hard and you start to realize that you're living a prison or living in boxes, and that the fact these boxes actually feel claustrophobic and feel like I'm not feeling comfortable here. But you know what is the biggest shift that happens? Is that when you start to connect with yourself and you're now seeing things, you're basically seeing yourself run by perceptions, run by programs, run by adopted ideas, run by belief systems and so forth, and say, wait a minute, how much of this actually resonates for me? How much of this is actually a true reflection? Am I doing what I really want to do? What I really feel passionate about? What I love about it? Am I actually expressing my perception or my true essence? Am I being, the gift that I am here? Because we all come with powerful tools. We have powerful contributions that we can provide. There's nobody on the planet that does not contribute in one way or another. However, because of all these adopted perceptions and whatever else, we've put it all on the back burner. We kind of put it away, say, hey, I see the world this way, but I have to put it away because the world doesn't accept this and I have to follow what the world accepts. In my own personal opinion, I came from a very closed-minded family, very religious, very, culturally based and all of that stuff. I would not be doing what I'm doing. And I would not be able to even communicate the way I'm communicating if at one point or another along the way I said, I went into observer state and I'm going, you're reflecting this, you're sharing this, you're telling me all of this. Yeah, it would be a nice little try to play with some of this, but I'm seeing something that does not resonate with me. All of it pretty well. And I see that if I follow that, I feel uncomfortable. And if I follow what you're projecting, I can't be myself. So thank you, but no, I'm going to use this as my trampoline of showing I can experience what this is, but to leap forward because of it. Yes, did I have backlash, which many, many people do? Did I have people saying, hey, you can't be this way, you can't act this way, this is crazy, whatever it is? Yes, but you stay true to yourself. So what's happening right now? As you've been aware, many people are being bombarded and stimulated to start moving beyond perceptions, beyond whatever they adopted as an idea of life. You've done it too, Jayne. You've seen in your life, I am sure you feel it through and through, that you played the role like we all do to a certain degree, but at some point something started to shift. This podcast is just a reflection of it. You could have played in the medical field that you've taken on, homeopathic stuff or whatever else that you do, and say, well, that's my world, or whatever my experience is, this is my gender, this is my whatever. But you started to see outside it, and many, many, many people are starting to experience that. Even with all that craziness that's happening right now, it's actually another powerful tool, which we can cover if we want to. But that's what we're looking at, is now really looking beyond our perceptions. And by doing so, we actually start to reshape our own personal reality and the collective reality. We're always shaping. We cannot live without shaping our reality. But what happens is we're shaping our reality, or shaping our viewpoint of ourselves based on these perceptions. And now we're moving beyond, and it's a great ride, because it doesn't matter what we've adopted, what we utilize, where we've been, what we've done, what we haven't done, or anything of that nature. That does not matter. All of it was a cool ride. All of it gave us a beautiful, powerful opportunity to really discover a limited version of ourselves. And now we're seeing a grander experience of ourselves. And the transition in between is like amazing. You wouldn't be here. No one would be here if they didn't want to be here, part of this ride. And as much as the ride is polarized, the ride is accentuated, intensified, and it's like unrealistic or whatever it is the place to be. And that's why we're here. So yeah, that's the thing is right now we're going through a powerful shifting and seeing beyond our perception. This is why we're doing a workshop this coming weekend on that, seeing beyond our perception, and redesigning, reshaping our whole reality based on that. And that's like, people say, how do I create a new me? How do I create a new world? And this is what people say to themselves, like, how do I do this? Well, it's about dropping all perceptions and ideas that you've had as a way of life, and start looking at it, how you can adopt or really see the truth about yourself and why you're even here to do what you're here to do. Now, a lot of people get caught up in this. What do I need to do? What's my purpose? Whatever it is. And that's can be a distraction. Yeah, you want to see that, but you know how you automatically find your own purpose? You start being yourself, and it all unfolds. You can see all of that showing up. Now, a lot of people get involved in the idea of, my purpose is reaching millions of people, and I got to do this, and I got to take action on that. No, don't put that in there, because that's perceptually based too. Collectively based idea that I got to do. Now, that doesn't mean you won't. It means that once you're more crystal clear and you've already worked on certain things personally, then you can take the show on the road. Yeah, take the show on the road, or, start playing a different role on Humanity Escape. But at the same time, just the fact that we're accessing higher realities, more awareness, we're shifting ourselves, that's already impactful throughout the world anyways. And it's in fact impactful with everybody you interact with, or even in close proximity with them. It's all of that. But if you feel called to do something else, that's okay. You do something else, whatever that may be. In your case, podcasts and whatever else that you do amazing work. And we're all amazing and doing some powerful parts of it.
Yeah, and it's just about tuning that into each individual and starting with whatever it is small. I love how you talk about, these perceptions can sometimes trampoline you into a whole new way of being. And just talk, like, even what we're going through now with Corona, being, boxed in, feeling forced to do certain things, that's all our perceptions that we have to do any of that.
Right.
Just talk to us a bit about that, because then we can then go into what is changing our perception and becoming more aware.
Yeah. So this whole thing about, the pandemic sort of thing, the corona, like you called it, a lot of people could see this, there's different viewpoints of all of this. One will see, oh, this is horrible, this can kill us and whatever else. There's a lot of focus around that. Second part is, all these mandates and so forth. The third one is like others are coming in and saying, oh, we're being manipulated, we're being lied, this is corruption, this is manipulation, and all of this stuff that's going on. And the others are going, oh, my freedoms, my choices, my sovereignty is being challenged here. Others are also looking at it and say, hey, this is pretty freaking cool. It's shaking things up, and it's, allowing me to, be locked up for a little while because I'm now spending some time reviewing my life, making maybe new choices or whatever it is. When we really look at it, the main purpose of all of this is really, as much as all of those narratives, all those ideas, all of those concepts and perceptions of whatever is going on is playing out, this is something we collectively agreed upon. Is this thing as horrible as it is? Not at all. It was intended to that. And it was manufactured to look like that, to play out that way. But collectively, each and every one of us, from a higher self perspective, from a super conscious perspective, including any other groups that we've worked with, had said, no, we're not going to use this as an exit out. We're not going to use it to a real, what we can call pandemic, which is kind of all manufactured anyway. We're not going to do that. So in fact, we've agreed to take those codes, because that's all they are, and to minimize its capacity to even a lower grade of what would be common flu. However, we still needed to collectively say, we need to be pushed to the point where we lose, or perceptionally lose, the idea of freedom, the fact that we have no control, that first of all, we have to be afraid of this thing. Second of all, that, we have no power and we have no choice, and that certain authorities and certain other individuals and groups and so forth will dictate where our life goes. And are we going to have a savior or not? Are we going to have a vaccine or not? All of these things here. But when you really look at it, what happened? It stopped a lot of people. It gave a lot of people opportunity to kind of reflect on what they've been ignoring because they've been on the hamster wheel. All of us get onto the hamster wheel. You're trying to make one day after the next, and one day after. Then all of a sudden you get stopped. Now you're spending more quality time with yourself. And at first it may seem really odd because all of a sudden now you're exposed to other people within your family dynamics more closely than ever before. And of course, it's going to bring up programs, perception, belief systems, and whatever. But, and then fears or whatever else. But at the same time, it gives you the opportunity to say, okay, wait a minute. Maybe I don't want to do what I used to do before. Maybe I don't want to do it. And, you may, and the media has been really, really good because they've been pushing and pushing and pushing. And then all these so-called self-labeled experts and authority figures and whatever else, using science and whatever else, have been all playing this beautiful role to really push things even harder. But what's happening? You can see what's happening. Many, many people, I'm not saying everybody, and I'm telling you, everybody is already shifting anyways, because a lot of people are not buying it to the same degree as they did at first. The fear factor is weakening. The the idea that I need to react a certain way is weakening. Even though, perception is, oh, I got to wear this thing. And yes, I got to social distance. Yes, I can't go out and be in groups. Yes, I can't do this or that, whatever it is. They may still be giving some power to that, but it's not to the same degree. The other part that's happening is that a lot of other people are now being pushed, and they're starting to see the nonsensical component of all of this. So what's happening? They're not taking what only the mainstream is providing. Now they're starting to look into the alternative stuff. They're starting to question things because things don't add up. Things don't make sense. What they're saying, and then look at it. They're flip-flopping from one thing to another, and then they're blaming each other, whatever it is. And yes, we had all these deaths and whatever else. Well, if you really look at it, it's actually less than what we normally have every single year. And I'm telling you, the beauty of it, since the corona's come in, all of the disease is pretty well dissolved. There's no more flus. There's no more other deaths because everything is just that, right? And it's reduced, which is pretty cool. So it's actually an antidote, if you have to look at it. That's how crazy it's become. But the big picture of this, it's actually helping people to tap into themselves, to see what resonates, what doesn't resonate, start to look at something else. And so now, of course, there's a wave of people that's now looking into, oh, this is not real, whatever it is, and we're now being lied to, which they never saw before, but now they're seeing it. But is it really a lie? Well, they're telling you something that may not be correct. Yes, absolutely. But why is the purpose of that? So that you can actually see if it resonates, so you can tune in and say, yeah, I'm not going for that narrative. I'm not going for that story. I want to really look at really what's going on. Because you have to understand it's just a game. Okay, all of this is just a game. And we can talk about the authority stuff and whatever else in a moment, but I'll let you lead that. But in essence, in regards to when we're talking about what's going on right now, that people are not only questioning it, but they're also noticing, hey, wait a minute, I'm also noticing I don't have as much sovereignty as I thought, first of all. We do. We always have sovereignty. You can't take it away. It's impossible. But we can say, oh, I'm going to give my power or my control to certain groups, authorities, experts, whatever you want to call it, right? So now they're feeling, wait a minute, my sovereignty is being challenged. My free will is being challenged. Well, free will is the same thing. You can't take it away. You can be perceptualized to follow a certain program. For example, you cannot take free will out. However, you can perceptually tune someone to use their free will according to whatever the narrative may be. When you understand that, because a lot of people say, we lost our free will. No, you never did. You're being convinced how to use it. You're being shaped how to use it, but it's your choice. Now, we don't want to get into the whole thing about blaming, because you have to understand they're playing a role. Because the moment we blame, we're making them the victimizer. If they're the victimizer, then we need a victim. And guess who steps into victim position? You do. And I mean you, but everybody, right? Then we're talking about the other side. Well, they're, mandating how life is. And I have to follow the rules. What happens? You're saying, no, I got to follow the rules because of this. So what are you doing? You're going into giving them power, what people refer to power or control, or telling you what to do, and you go into a disempowered state. So all of this is being accentuated. All of this intensity of polarization, separation, light, dark, right, wrong, good, bad, who to blame, whatever it is, all being accentuated because what it's doing, it's pushing us to go into this empowered state, to look at our perceptions and to look at within the perception, who am I giving power to? What am I adopting and still giving power to? And power, really what it's about is you're utilizing what is being shared and to shape your reality accordingly. It's not like I'm powerless. Like you could say to somebody, say, well, who has power over you? Well, nobody has power over me. However, I'm giving them the right or the position to tell me how to live my life or what I can or cannot do. So what you're doing is shifting your focus on what they're saying and creating, shaping your reality accordingly, instead of using your own inner guidance and shaping your reality accordingly. But the power is never shifted. You're just basically shifting what they're saying, superseding what you're thinking or feeling or knowing within yourself. The same thing happens with perceptions. You say, well, okay, a perception is a handed down idea that comes from many streams. Can be lineage, can be culture, can be religious, could be upbringing, could be whatever. You know, there's so much, education, you name it. So the moment we go into that, I adopt those perceptions, you're going to create reality accordingly. But you're going to now notice, hey, wait a minute, I don't want to play here. I'm going to now tune into myself. And this is what this whole lockdown, all of this stuff has happened, to bring that to the surface, to actually push us more powerfully to recognize what we've been playing. So we're going through a powerful shift. And how do we shift? The only way we can shift anything in our reality, in our world, is to realize what we've been doing and what we really want to do next. How do we want to play the game? What do we want to shift? So it's, you know, the so-called Corona thing has been a tool, and everything that came out of it, because you look at it and say, okay, it's this thing, okay, whatever that may be. However, it's all of the stuff that's been projected from that has been the instrument that created a certain scenario, a certain perceived idea of limitations. Because look at it now, not only are people questioning things, people are tuning into themselves more and more people are coming on board on that. More and more people are so-called demonstrating. I'm not talking, you know, violence or anything like that. Demonstrating, saying, hey, wait a minute. We want to tell you that this is not something we're agreeing upon any longer. Because the thing is, when we step into authority, and I'd rather you lead into that because you have your spin on all of that, because I'd like to expand on that in a moment. So hopefully I set the stage.
No, yeah, beautiful. And I've learned that whenever I sense fear, I'll step into myself and say, okay, the fear comes from a certain program. What is it? And then I'll go inside and listen and decide how I'm going to react. So I think that's what a lot of people are learning to do and what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, the more you do that, you go from reaction to response to selected response to selective creation.
Right.
These are all the stages, because you're not going to even respond anymore to a pattern, because that's how we operate, on a pattern and an automatic default. We start go on there and say, okay, how do I now create my reality? How do I choose to move forward from where I am at now? So regardless of what's going on, because fear is a plugged in illusionary component, which, you know, became a perception that we've given a lot of power to. So that's the thing. When we look at authority, who is the ultimate authority? Is it some group? Is it some individuals? Is it some called experts? Is it some, background of saying science or whatever it is? Is it some deity? Is it some so-called gods or whatever it is? Or is it you? All of us. We're authority of ourselves. When we actually recognize that we are source itself, we are the very essence of all existence, and we are part of that creation of that existence, then you see that you're at authority. Now, the only reason we adopted the idea of authority is to take the so-called focus away from us and hand it over to somebody else to have an experience. But it's funny, because some people say, well, you got to listen to authority. And I go, well, how does authority actually come about? Because you could say, well, maybe somebody's a little bit more experienced in something, which is great. Okay, they have a little bit more experience. They can share their experience. They can enlighten you on whatever their experience was, but it was their experience, their observation, their perception. And it's up to each one of us to say, okay, let me look at that. How much resonates, how much I can utilize, or I can discount completely and then base it on my own inner knowing. Because look at how many the coming and going has happened over all these years when so-called ideas and perceptions were brought in from anything, from education to medical to whatever, right? And you say, well, they were the experts, but we discover something else, or we shift something else, whatever it is. The point is, like even the work I share, and I do lots of it, I share a lot of information, but what's the information about? I'm not here to tell you how to believe things. All I'm sharing with you is stuff that triggers your own inner knowing to shift your perception so that you connect with yourself. Like, why would I tell you that you're a sovereign being? Well, because you are, but you know that. And all I'm doing is triggering that knowing. That's it. But it's you that's navigating. It's you, meaning everybody, that chooses what you're going to do with it and how you go forward through this. So you have to understand, authority figures are perceived concepts and ideas, self-designated. And they will provide a certain level of information, direction. But you need to look at it and say, does that resonate with me? Is that where I'm going to put my focus on permanently or temporarily, or not at all? I've heard it many times from people, my own personal experience, and I've seen it with other people. They say, oh, I'm an expert in that. And I go, well, okay, share with me what you have observed and learned and what you've experienced, and see if any of it actually resonates with me. Sometimes what they may say, oh, yeah, I kind of felt that, but I never really paid attention to that. That's cool. Great. I'm going to adopt it as part of my understanding, and then I'm going to expand it anyways. Other times they go, yeah, okay, that's your perception. Okay, great. But it doesn't resonate with me, so I don't use it. But I also see where they're at or whatever anybody's at, right? I look at everybody's perceptions and ideas and say, okay, this is where humanity is at. What tools can I provide to help them stimulate whatever it is? So you look at it. So when it comes to, say, government and other authority figures, we have to understand that it's all made up. They're no better than anybody else. Just the fact that we've adopted the idea that, okay, because they're in the government, they're in a certain position, they have authority. No, it's just that, a perception that we agree upon to hold on to for a period of time. Because look at it this matter. It doesn't matter who it is, if they're presidents, they're leaders, they're whatever, prime ministers, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who they are. They can say whatever shit they want. And I use that loosely with that word. They can say whatever they want. They can dictate all they want, even dictators. Unless people adopt the perception that they're authority and that we need to follow, nothing happens. Because we're the ones that actually take action. We're the ones that chooses to give it power or not. I don't care who crowns them or whoever says, okay, you're putting your hand on the Bible, swearing that you're going to do this and that. Remember, they're playing a role. They're going to play the role to help us awaken or not. They can play a dark role and a light role. They can play whatever role. But it's ultimately us. What are we going to utilize and what we're going to do? It's up to us. It's always been up to us and always is. So people say, well, if we get this certain president in, or we get this, we have two choices here. One has corruption. The other one has a little less corruption. This has one, whatever it is. And I go, well, it doesn't matter which direction it goes. Yeah, there's a preference because one is kind of working towards a direction that we are choosing, and the other one's going to just confine us a little bit more. But ultimately, regardless what direction it is, we're the ones that turn around and say, hey, do we give power to this or not? Do we shape this or not? How do we choose to respond? Because look at it this way, even the police, the military, and so forth, it doesn't matter if there's a mandate from the top guy that says, hey, we got to go out and kill all these people, we got to go and do this, or you need to go and take care of all this unrest or whatever's going on because these guys are not following the rules. Unless they say, okay, we're going to go, they won't. Nothing's going to happen. They can say, hey, you go do it yourself. Who are not going to do anything. They can be on a podium and they can be on a stage screaming their lungs out, whatever it is. And they say, hey, guy, you're just doing whatever. the point I'm saying all of this is because it always comes back to us. Do we accept it? Do not? Do we adopt to the perceptions or not? And that's really what dictates. So there is no authority. Is there levels of truth? Yes. I probably heard where people say, well, everybody has their own truth. That's an interesting one because I've had that thrown at me a few times over the years. I haven't heard anybody say that anymore to me directly, but, we all have our own truth. Yeah, well, what is that truth? It's an adopted perception and idea that you've adopted, and you're going to utilize it for a while until you get to the point where you don't resonate with it or don't want to play with it, and then you shift it. So, yeah, it's going to seem true to you. Like, for example, the people say, well, it's true that, we have to wear these masks and that will protect us. We got a social distance or whatever else. It's true, right? I go, yeah, okay. That's the truth you want to believe, which is really not truth, is perception. And you've adopted that perception. That's good. You can play with that perception. You can create your reality around that perception. You can create a lot of fear and separation and this and that. You can do lots of things with that. But there is an ultimate truth. And it has nothing to do with whatever's going on. The ultimate truth is, yeah, we're source. We're a powerful being. We chose to be here. We came to play here. We're infinite. We're immortal. Yeah, maybe we drop our physicality and take on different physicality or stay in non-physicality for a period of time. We can do lots of different things. Yeah, there's a truth to that. That there is no right, wrong, good, bad. Those are all perceptions that we've created as part of the game. As sources, we see a beautiful dance, but like any dance, you upgrade, and that's what we're doing. We're shifting. We're upgrading ourselves. We're upgrading the human experience. We're upgrading the world. We're upgrading every part of how we deal with anything and how we play with anything. We still have freedom, come and go anytime we want. There's no deity saying, oh, you live for another 10 years and then you die, or you live for another 20 minutes and then you die, or that the fact that you have to have a crash or anything of that nature. The ultimate truth is you decide. You may not be super conscious of it because you're in a super conscious state when you make those decisions, but there's a purpose behind the decisions, whatever they may be. And you never stop existing. You stop temporarily having a combination of what we call an innate body with a human entity and a soul combined together, working through a powerful computer we call the mind, that is playing on a playground, which is all holographic, including all of what I just said, for a period of time. That's all it is.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the ways that I like to empower, or I love talking about near-death experiences, because it makes us all realize that just what you're saying, that we're infinite. And I understand you had an experience, a near-death experience. You've had several, but maybe you could describe one.
Yeah, it's interesting. As even a young person, as a child, I remembered. I have memory, still have it today. I have memory of being in other lives, being on other planets, being in different physical forms, being in different solar systems and galaxies and universes and so forth. And to me, I thought that was pretty common, and I didn't realize not everybody has that experience. However, with that, it's allowed me to understand that, yeah, you can go wherever you need to go and whatever it is, and you experience what you experience. To bring it down to Earth now, on planet Earth, there's a lot of power given to the fear of death, what it's like on the other side, should we be afraid of it, or what we do here is going to determine if it's going to be a good place or a bad place or anything of that nature. There's a lot of, perceptions around all of that, right? And it's interesting because there's a lot of fear of death. But, I like to bring people back into perspective. I go, there's a lot more fear of living than there's fear of death. Because we're so afraid of life. We're so afraid of what choices we make. So let's just bring it at home to the near-death experience and so forth. Now, I've had several near-death experiences. And I had one which I don't call near-death experience. I call a full-blown death experience. I'll talk about that one. The near-death, before I put the near-death experiences, which a lot of people refer to, is when you leave your body temporarily. And a lot of times you're still in the space where your body is. You're outside of your body. You may be looking at your body. You may be looking at other people that are working on your body. You may have a temporary visitation from other aspects of yourself that may have passed on or may have been your guides or whatever it is. But you're not too far away from your physical form. You're not in the bodied part, but you're not too far from it, and you will have certain experiences. Now, some of those experiences are really tuned for what you require as a jolting or shifting or something within yourself. The only reason you may have any form of near-death experiences because it detaches from you, from what you've created as an experience in physical form, and you go into non-form. Usually it opens you up a little bit more. And it gives you an opportunity to kind of reconnect with some other parts of it. Now, I know some people say, well, I get to see the light, or I get to see certain individuals that passed away, or I get to, see God, or whatever their intent is for whatever is required for them on the shift. Then there's a true death experience where you actually leave the body completely. You're not even in the body anymore. You're now going into a completely other dimension. You're like, I'm not even talking about a dimension of form. You're going into non-form. And that was one of the experiences I had on February 15, 2016. That one there, I left the body for over an hour. Okay. And I saw myself, and again, you're not carrying the same form. You have an energy field of that form. So what you can call an energy body is with you, in a sense. You can relate with that. So what happened is I ended up going into this space, this energy field. To me, it looked like a grayish bubble that was like, if you're in the United States, 300 feet in diameter. In European or in Canada or any place like that, it's 100 meter. What looked like a 100-meter bubble, and you're just floating there. And my guide that I've had for many years, not only in this lifetime, but in previous lifetime, because we have a soul connection, a very strong one, because we're in the same cluster souls, or what we call oversoul connection. So my guide was there, showed up and said, hey, why are you here? And I said, well, I really don't know why I'm here or anything of that nature, but at the same time, I'm kind of suspecting something. He says, well, you died, you know that, right? And I said, oh, I kind of suspected that because, I've had near-death experiences before, but this one was totally different because I'm nowhere, referenced with the body at all at this point any longer. So he said, yeah, so why are you here? And I said, well, body shut down, went through whatever it went through, it just didn't quite make it. He says, yeah, but, you have capacity and power to decide if you want to do it or not. So my job here is to give you a full review and to look at what you've perceived in your life as done or haven't done. Now, I'm not talking about what you've done or haven't done in that. So one of the things I had in my consciousness was, I came on the planet with the intent to create a powerful shift or to contribute, to share stuff that's outside of what normal human people focus on. I mean, I have a lot of resources, but that's my soul communicating through me. But so my review is like, really, I've been here like almost 59 years at that time, and I haven't really done as much impactfulness as I thought I would have done. So then he brings me through a review. So like, it wasn't a screen, but it looked like a screen behind him showing me my life, my interactions, what I've done, didn't do, whatever it is, and how it's playing out. And then I kept seeing how the different impacts that was happening to the different individuals along the way, and groups of people, and things that were coming in and didn't come in, what shifted and so forth. And I'm going, wow, I didn't realize I was actually that impactful because I didn't think I was doing that much, right? So after this whole thing went on for a long time, he says, so what do you want to do? You know, you have a contract, and your contract was supposed to be for 120 years. Okay. And you have the freedom at this point in time, because you barely made the half mark. You're almost at the half mark. You have a choice now. You either go back, or you choose to move on and go back to your universe that you're from, and choose what you want to do from there. I said, well, you know, I made an agreement and I really feel compelled to continue it, right? So I'll go back, right? So to give the shorter thing, then I ended up coming back and I ended up going into the body, but it wasn't as easy to transition as you thought. You know, you just like zoom in, zoom back out. It was kind of an ordeal to get in there. But once I did, it was, you know, the body had to come back alive. Of course, you know, you haven't been breathing or a heartbeat for over an hour, and you end up having quite a few different things occur. So the coming back to life becomes quite intense. Now, my point to all of this, because I've looked at and I've worked with many people in transitions going in and out. So what happens? We never cease to live, because there's 3 parts to us. Okay? There's actually 4. There's a soul. The soul is a signature frequency cluster consciousness that is still from source, within source, that actually is interdimensional, can play in all dimensions, can take on different forms, and the forms can go from one form to another on different dimensions and solar systems, you name it. Okay? It has no limits to that. It could stay in non-form, can be a guide, can play with other forms on any planet at this point in time. It has a very specific signature. Those signatures are connected to an oversoul. You have a twin soul, which have identical signatures. Then you have another 23 or 24 souls, or 22 souls actually, that have very close similar signatures, but not identical. And that we have those connections, but we share with amongst another. And I won't go there. We can do that another time we connect. So that's the first part, the soul. Then we have a human entity. A human entity is actually another version of soul. The difference is it has a slightly different signature, but that particular soul will only embody human form and will also stay in non-form for periods of time. So it basically been here since this, the planet was retooled and human nature has been receded from, or any form of nature, because we are also talking about all sentient beings that exist on the planet, for 15,000 years. That is, and that soul, the human entity part, maintains skill sets, maintains and expands what it's learned. This is why you see these savants, you see these kids or people that have never touched an instrument, have never done science, never had done mathematics or anything about nature, because they're so young or they haven't been experienced to that, come in with some amazing brilliance, amazing skill sets, because that's the human entity itself that maintains that and expands from life to life. Then we have what we call the human body, which is an innate consciousness, which is an extension of Gaia. So that is another part that carries the progress of the human experience, the progress of the evolution of the human body. Again, that is current to the 15,000 years. And then we have the mind. The mind is an overall consciousness that works with your body, that works with your human entity, works with your soul, that creates a cluster consciousness that expresses itself in physical form. That has 2 compartments to it. There's the receiver part, which we call the right brain, that receives input from the body, human entity, from the soul, that transmits it to the left brain, which actually now takes those codes, takes those spectrums, and creates what we see as holographic expression, which we call form expression, right? All of those clusters continue to exist no matter what. Now, each time you incarnate, which we call an incarnation, a body comes from Gaia through another human, which, you know, you say, okay, we're giving birth using their codes and their genetics and part of their DNAs that creates this body. The body is creating through the expression of what we call Gaia, the earth, the planet, whatever you want to call it, with all the associated. Then the human entity will come in and say, hey, I want to take on that body coming through that chain of event and through those connections and so forth. So it brings in whatever skill sets that it wants. Of course, the skill sets can alter and adjust. And then the soul comes along and says, hey, I want to play in that physical body. Now, with those combinations, it will communicate to get permission to make an agreement, how it can share and whatever else, and what it can do and it can't do. And what it contributes to each part of it. Now, it doesn't stop there, because each part of those are going to communicate with your parents, if they're going to be totally involved, to all of the genetics that are connected to it, what we call the lineage, what we call to the family dynamics, to other individuals we're going to play with, right? So all of this communication and beautiful exchange is occurring. This is all infinite. And now, we've adopted a lot of perceptions and ideas that there's a hell and a heaven, there's karma and all of this stuff, because that's another topic in itself, because it doesn't exist in the way that, you know, perceived as an idea. And it doesn't exist at all now. That all changed in 87. But regardless, all you do when you die, and I've moved in and out of the body all the time, and many, many people have done it. And Dolores Cannon also worked on a lot of people, you know, when regression. I've done many, many regressions in the last 35 plus years. I don't do that many of them at all now, but because it's not as necessary. But the regressions is the body's regression, the human entity's regression, and the soul's regression. You kind of have to kind of tap into which one you want to regress. But the thing is, you see that when you are ready to transition. Now, the beauty of this, the soul can decide that it wants to be done with the experience. The soul can't leave. But the human entity and the body may say, yeah, you know, we still have work to do. It opens itself and invites another soul to come in. So we call drop-ins. So you can have another soul come in. You can do soul swapping for a period of time. All of that stuff happens. This is like a big topic, but we're not going to go there right now. So all of this is happening on that. The human entity usually sticks around with the whole thing, but can go in and upgrade certain things and adjust and so forth. The point is, you know, the soul realizes that, especially when it leaves the construct of the perceptions and so forth, it realizes, and it also realizes. That's why when we're tapping into our heart and we're going into our clear state, we see that we're infinite being and that this is just a game. Every game is just a game. Every opportunity is an experience. Every opportunity advances itself and advances the collective and advances source itself, right? So, the fear that a lot of people have about it is a perceptual concept that has been projected and extended because of just that, perceptions, ideas, and so forth. And a lot of religions have been involved. A lot of people claiming all types of things have been involved. But I can tell you, every time that I've connected with souls that have departed, because I've connected with many, some are family members. Even just to give you an idea, my own mother, okay? My mother was someone that was convinced from not being a nun to get married in an arranged marriage, okay? Was not happy about that whole concept. However, it was an agreement she made. She didn't realize that at first. My mother was very religious, very closed-minded. She had some skill sets, like some gifts that she had of seeing beyond that, but she was so afraid of it because she was like heavily ingrained into the religious stuff. And then there were, you know, her family dynamics had a priest, and a nun was her sister, the brother was a priest, whatever it was. And all of that, you know, kind of concrete. But here's my mom. And I won't give you the whole story when she left because I have, you know, that would be extending this conversation even further. But when she came to the point of leaving, she had, cancer and whatever else. And so I did some work on her and so forth, and we shifted a lot of it. But anyway, she chose to leave in a different way. She didn't actually die from cancer. She actually stopped her heart at some point. And I won't give you the whole story because that's quite a story in itself, because it kind of shows us how we actually have power. Because just to give you the short bits of it, after working with her for 2 months, and she was actually given a death sentence. That's the only time she ever talked to me, because she was afraid of what I shared, because she was so closed-minded with religion. And I was outside of religion, and it's like blasphemy sort of thing, even though I was her older son and was whatever it was. She was told by the doctors that, whatever happened, which they couldn't imagine what happened, that she didn't go into, in fact, 80% of whatever she had, which was leukemia and cancer that had spread to all of her organs, was gone. They said, we've never seen this. This is not something that, you step back and say, okay, it's not progressing anymore. This thing is reversed in 2 months, right? So the death sentence that they gave her for 60 days, they said, you don't have that anymore. You may live a long time, because somehow you're improving. But we came back from that appointment, and I was driving her back because I went to the doctor's appointment. We saw 3 doctors that day. One was the leukemia specialist, and the other ones were the other ones that were looking at the oral cancer and cancer that was in the. So there was 3 doctors that were involved in 2 different hospitals. They were just happened to be across the street from each other, Princess Margaret and St. Joe's and Toronto General. But anyways, she was sad, right? And I said, what's the deal? Oh, I'm too broken up inside. And I knew what she meant, because we worked on some of her programs and so forth, but she still felt that she couldn't break out of her patterns. And there was 2 patterns that were still there. Anyways, to go through it, I was at during the weekend. This was on a Friday. During the weekend, she had an episode on Sunday, and then and I used to tease her, and I was serious with her. This is prior, and the reason I want to share this this goes to an understanding. I used to tell her a few years before she even got sick. I said, when you die, I want you to come and visit me. And she goes, oh, you're always talking nonsense. Shut up. Don't say those things. You're always talking nonsense. I said, no. You come and visit me. I want you to come and visit. You can do that. Oh, that's nonsense. We die and we go to heaven or purgatory or hell or whatever, depending on how good she was or whatever. I said, no. You come and visit me. And I said, I want you to answer me 3 questions. 1, who's God? 2, everything I've been telling you all these years, if it's true or a lie. And 3, why am I here? Because I had told her why I was here. I said, I want you to confirm any of that. You tell me. She goes, oh, it's just nonsense, right? Anyways, she stopped her heart. She died, and whatever it is. And 5 days later, I'm in my meditation in my chair in my bedroom. She appears to me in front of me. I said, oh, Mom, you came to visit. She says, well, I didn't know I could do that. Now, she was somewhat transparent, of course. You can see the whole outline. You could see she was there. She looked a lot healthier and younger, too, in fact. I said, wow, you look pretty good, for it. But you came to visit. And he says, yeah, I didn't know we could do that. But now I realize. I said, so, Mom, now I didn't know what happened. Like, I knew she stopped her heart, but I didn't know what led up to it. What made her make that choice? So I said, Mom, what happened? What made you choose to die, to leave? And she said, I got triggered with 2 things that I saw as major obstacles that I felt that I could. And I said, I'm throwing in the towel. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. So I stopped my heart. So she gave me details, which I did not know. And then I confirmed because my brother knew. And after the funeral and all that stuff, and I said to my brother, what happened to Mom? And since he told me the story of what led up to the thing of her deciding to stop her heart. So anyways, I said, okay, Mom, you're in front of me. And so how is it? She says, wow, it's quite different. You know, we're in this beautiful energy field and whatever else, you know, and right now I got to go through my review, but I'm still hanging around and I'm watching you guys with the funeral because we were just wrapping that up, what was going on. And it happened, she died around Easter time. So there, you know, some of the functions, services had to be delayed because of the fact of the holiday or whatever it was, right? So she says, oh, I'm just observing and whatever else. So I'm still hanging around and observing this. So I said, okay, so what is your intent? What are you planning to do? And he says, well, I got to go through my review and whatever else. And then from there, I'm going to decide what I'm going to do. But I don't see myself doing anything right now. I'm going to just stay in non-state. I said, okay, now remember those 3 questions I gave you, right? I said, so who and what is God? She goes to me, it's just an energy. It's a consciousness. It's everything and whatever else. And I go, fantastic. Is there somebody on a throne telling you there's hell and heaven and all that stuff? And she goes, no, it's just peace. It's love. It's just a beautiful energy. And I can see you guys playing the game and whatever else. And I can just really observe and feel really good about this, you know? She says, when you don't, and I said to her, I said, so what happened to all of this stuff? So she says, now, the way I am right now, if I had to re-embody and I can keep some of this memory, I would play the game totally different. You know, those 2 obstacles that I had a real tough time? There's a piece of cake. I can move that very easily. She said to me, she pointed here, she says, when you don't have this, which is the mind perceptual programming, she says, the world is totally different. Reality is totally different. Everything of existence is totally different. So I said, okay, Mom, so what's answer me the 3 questions. So, and so she said about God, this thing. I said, okay, everything I've been telling you all these years, which is some of the stuff I'm sharing with you guys now, was it true or was it a lie? Was I fabricating it or whatever? She goes, no, it was absolutely true. You didn't say anything that was not true. I go, okay. I said, the 3rd question, the last question, why am I here? She goes, oh yeah, you came here to help. You're from this and that, did whatever it is. And I go, cool. So fantastic. So I said, what's the next step? She goes, well, I'm going to be, once I'm done with this process, I'm going to go through the process and then I'll see what happens, right? And then she left. So I didn't see her anymore. 2 months later, from her death period, she appeared again. I was doing my meditation. Now, my meditation is not like I'm going into a sleep state or anything like that. I opened my eyes after, and I could see her in front of me. Same as before. And I said, oh, you came to visit again. She goes, yeah, this is my last time for now. I'm not going to be, I'm now going to go through a different process. And the process is actually clearing out some of the stuff, and I'm going to decide at that point. So I said, so what have you learned? What have you observed? She goes, oh, with what I have access to now, I would take on a role and help shift humanity in a big way. She says, I would take an active role, and all this stuff about religion, all of that stuff is all made up. This is coming from her, right? All made up. And I can see how raising people's consciousness, shifting, and would be impactful and very powerful. And I go, fantastic. So when are you coming back? She goes, oh, it won't be for a while. I have to go through other processes and so forth and so forth. So I said, Mom, so you have the freedom to reincarnate? She says, yeah, I've had thousands of lives and on different planes and different experiences and so forth. I have access to it. I have memory, and I can project myself to any of that. She goes, it's amazing how we can get lost in the human experience. But it's so beautiful. You guys, this is beautiful, and this is what I can leave with you. And that's what she shared, and then she left. And I haven't ever seen her ever since. And now she's been gone for almost 15 years, maybe less. Let me see. Yeah, 12, 13 years, somewhere around that.
And then, well, all this information is so empowering. I just love it. And I think that we've all chosen to be here in order to shift. And that's how I'd love to just have you share a gem, and remind everyone that's why we're here, and to change our perceptions so that we can shift. And it all comes from each of us, right?
Absolutely. Yes. So the body itself has an absolute choice on what form it wants to take, what codes it utilizes, if it's how much of it is going to replicate from what the genetics and dynamics and so forth that it takes from the family or the lineage or anything of that nature. The human entity has an absolute freedom of what it's going to take in, what it's going to play and so forth, and the soul also. Now, the reason we have these particular combinations, the reasons that we're on the planet right now is because we've noticed from that collection of our makeup, of our true makeup, and as sourceness, that right now, what we have at our disposal is amazingly unique, powerful, and highly transformative. So each one of us have come in to take that opportunity to advance in huge ways, to dissolve patterns after patterns that have been carried in from incarnation to incarnation, to dissolve completely the human perceived idea that we've adopted as a reality in our world. It is to transform our human experience, to transform the world. Each one of us carries a specific signature, a specific frequency, a specific spectrum of light and consciousness from all these incarnations, even from the multidimensional incarnations that the soul brings in, have made these combinations, have now harnessed that and are playing out the role of adopting a tremendous amount of perceptions, experiencing those perceptions, transmuting a lot of those perceptions, and now totally utilizing those perceptions to dissolve it and to expand and access more of ourselves to create this new reality we call the human reality, and the reality of being on a planet in any form of form. And that also involves, right now, it's not just us transforming. The whole solar system is, the planets upgrade, every single sentient being, every animal, bird, reptile, oceanics, and so forth, insect world, all of it is all going through a transformation and upgrading. This upgrading and transformation is bringing in our natural blueprint, our true form of operating system in an upgraded version. We're not alone. We're working together as a team. The people that are playing the extra roles, the extras, like in a movie, which Doris Cannon also mentioned. When I heard her say that, and I go, whoa, somebody else actually got into that, and mentioned it, because I didn't get anybody reflecting that. Now I always knew that. So you have the extras, you have the ones that are majorly in the driver's seat, and the ones that are kind of in the middle of the transitional periods. Of course, those numbers are higher, but at the same time, each and every one of them are instrumental. Doesn't matter if the instrumental component is the polarity, intensity, or whatever it may be, it's all serving. So we are here because we wanted to be here. No one has ever deceived us to be here. Yes, sometimes our guides may have said, it might be good for you to go there, and it might be good, but it's still ultimately the free choice of the body, of the human entity, and the soul. Each and every time to say, I'm going to take this on. When, like even with the story I've told you about my mother, and that's all factual, I didn't make it up. It's true. That's how it was. But when you're in, because you don't have to die to access that knowing. Meditation helps, but the thing is, when you start tuning into yourself, you will see that grander part. So you don't have to leave the body to access it. You already have access to it, but you'll just be able to see it more crystal clear. This is why when we're tuning into our heart is our direct connection to our soul. Our solar plexus is our direct connection to our human entity. This is why we say gut feel, because that's our human entity talking. It has a tremendous amount of wisdom. It's had thousands and thousands of incarnations in all 15,000 years. Okay? Some lives have been longer, some lives have been shorter, it doesn't matter, right? When you're tuning into the body, now you're tuning into not only the consciousness of the body, but the consciousness of all bodies and the consciousness of Gaia. So you have all of those resources. So all we're doing is seeing beyond those perceptions to access those things. So it's a matter of shifting away from the fear of life, because that's the thing. It's not so much the death. When I've worked with people that are on their deathbed, when I say to them, what was the main thing that you've observed? The majority have said, I've been too afraid to live. And a lot of times it is, I really never used my time the way I wanted to. I got so lost in the perceptions, lost in the game, that I didn't actually utilize the opportunity I had. So now I'm going to have to leave, or I'm going to leave because it's best for me to do the whole resetting and retooling and whatever else, and then come back again. Maybe I might not come back on planet Earth. I may go on another planet, or I may stay in non-form, or whatever it is, but that's the choice. And that's how it is. So what are we doing right now? We're doing something amazing, something that has never been done before. What we are doing we have done or has been done, but over an extended period of time in smaller scales of integration, smaller scales of transformation. Now we've compressed it to the point where we're doing so much so fast. We're being blasted by energies, consciousness, codes, streams of access points, and you name it. And it's all part and parcel. Our brother, sister souls that are in form and different forms and different technologies and so forth are involved too. They're not doing it for us. They're not, interfering in any way, but they are contributing and supporting so that we stay in an empowered state and we don't cross the line in the sense of crossing the line where we actually can exterminate ourselves, because that's not an option that we made. Sometimes we can get lost in perceptions and do so. But so they're just playing that role. So this is where we're at right now. This is like a beautiful dance and so forth of life. And one last thing I wanted to say. I've been here 63 years. I've never witnessed what I am witnessing now. Not only energetically, the consciousness that people are accessing, the changes that are happening, and how many people have come on board. You can imagine, each decade I look back to compare it to today, it was either non-existent to minuscule to what we are doing now, what we are becoming aware of now, how much we are coming out of the unconscious state and going into a more super conscious state. That's what I can say. And the thing is, as much as I felt over the years, many decades ago, that I'm here way too early and I don't want to be part of this until I get, there's more progress. But I realized I needed to have the human experience, and the human experience really gave me a deeper appreciation and understanding of the condition that we all have done. So it's been a tool. Many of us have done the same thing. Many of us have been here a while. And even though you couldn't access some of the stuff that you wanted to access, you learned a lot about the human experience. You've learned how far we can get lost in perceptions, how far we can get lost in programs, belief systems, and made the world real to the point where we wouldn't question it. But now we're coming to more of that realization, and that is a powerful, powerful tool for us to shift. It's that super powerful trampoline.
Yeah.
That is supercharged.
Yeah. It's exciting. Yes. Franco, thank you for your perspective, and thank you so much for sharing today. It's just such welcome. Powerful information. And to everyone out there, don't forget, don't give away your power to anyone else. Just go be you.
Absolutely. So go out and play, have fun. That's what it's all about.